Hey guys, it's Doug Grindle. Hope you guys doing okay. This is Module 6 listening, and I'm doing Massachusetts politics in general, a little bit more specifically on the Republican side, but both Republicans and Democrats. And so, what do people in Massachusetts who are interested in politics talk about? Well, a lot of those guys talk about agencies, as in recently in the news, the Massachusetts state agencies have been having a problem. There was an issue with a kid going missing. And then there were hearings on why that happened. That was with one of the agencies, and same agency had a problem when a 15-year-old girl was taken away from her parents, and named Justina Pelletier, and there was a whole to-do about whether or not that was the right thing to do. So that's a typical sort of thing as a performance of the government in general. There's also stuff on the horse race, on the various campaigns. It's political season again. In November there'll be another election, so who's in, who's out, and you can see here that there's a Twitter announcement, guy running for U.S. Senate called Frank Adavonola. And then people just talk about various issues. Abortion's always a big issue on the blogosphere. And for instance, recently the Republican Party platform came out, and it had some stuff sort of about traditional marriage and pro-life sort of semi-pro-life sort of language, and then that stirred up a storm. So and you also got some Twitter posts on that. And and also the party platform has been big. As you got the Lowell newspaper saying, hey, is that a good idea for the Republican Party, or are they going to leech support? And then a lot of it's personality driven. This person is doing something stupid, and for instance, someone posted something about, hey, Chris Christie, you're kind of an ass. Don't come to Massachusetts. So there's all sorts of opinions about people. So there you go. But so looking at it over the last month or so, you can see another big issue was that the Massachusetts doesn't really comply with federal standards for IDs, and therefore can't really use a driver's license maybe in the next couple of years to get on a plane, because the federal standard is a lot higher than what Massachusetts is going for right now as one of 5 states. So so that had a big hit here on this top. So you sort of like which tweets are out there, sort of performance line, and some other stuff on marijuana. There's been some the whole legalization aspect is as an idea is being pushed forward in various venues. So every time that comes up, you get like more hits on the tweets. So what is it that people tend to use? They tend to use, as you can see, Twitter, pretty important stuff. And this, for instance, is there's a community called MassPoly, which is a Twitter sort of community hashtag, MassPoly, M-A-Poly, and people don't tend really to use the websites all that much. They use social media, surprisingly enough. Not surprising, really. Facebook and Twitter really predominate. The websites, people do have them, but they're sort of something you go to if you want something extra. But for the current stuff, really, it's Facebook. This, for instance, is a Facebook for someone running for state senate, and it's all about it's much less about the issues in terms of like A, B, and C. It's much more about, okay, this is my take on what's going on. So websites are still useful for specific campaign stuff, such as Nation Builder, but not so much. So anyway, looking at some of the creators and influencers around, Topsy sort of gives some headliners as guy running for governor as an independent, and a couple of other commentators. Really, in terms of what you actually see, not so much. They might get high marks for their social media, but not really for having an impact. An impact really is about some bloggers and some pressure groups have a lot of impact. Some of those bloggers, say Rob Eno or Holly Robichaud, quite influential on the Republican side. And then there's, obviously pressure groups of all kind, Red Mass Group, Mass Fiscal Alliance, Sierra Club, and and people who are against a gasoline tax here. And so, but there's also a lot of pressure groups, such as gay lesbian groups, repeal groups anti-casinos. Casinos are very big lately in Massachusetts because they keep on perhaps going into towns, and people in the towns are pro and anti quite vociferously. And some of the other groups like the Mass Fiscal Alliance is a good, interesting tax and sort of group on what taxes is going on. So and then there's again you have these communities on Twitter like Mass Poly and Mass GOP and the Facebook stuff, and the candidates themselves are really big influencers. Charlie Baker and Martha Coakley are both running for governor on the Republican and Democratic side. And so, they have their websites. So this is like Charlie Baker, he's Republican. Martha Coakley, Democrat, also has a website. So, they actually use that sort of stuff still. But again, it's a lot of it is using this, the Twitter sort of stuff as well as the Facebook. So moving right along, a typical creator influencer, probably, using our template, is someone who is able to update a lot and has some pretty good content. It tends to be like a private person, but they're affiliated with a group, whether it's like a party as a candidate or perhaps as as someone who is with a pressure group. A pressure group obviously could be on anything. It could be on from like tax policy or guns or the environment or whatever. So, but oftentimes the influencer will have an affiliation, but they're not using that affiliation to really push that. So they have, however, some qualifications which make them knowledgeable. For instance, like say Charlie Baker would have been a CEO of a large company. Martha Coakley would have been a high state official, and so they've got some qualifications. That's why they're being paid attention to. So male or female, they sort of like 35 to 55. Incomes should be all over the shop, trending towards the higher side. I'm sure Charlie Baker makes a lot more than 150,000 a year, but sort of in that sort of realm. And but oftentimes the activists, this will be their second jobs. They've got a regular job, then they also do this on the side. So and obviously the Republicans have much more rural sort of based issues, and the Democrats a bit more urban, as you would imagine. It's surprisingly enough in Massachusetts sort of like follows the nation as a whole. So typical influencers, they use Facebook, they Twitter, they have their own websites, or their group does have a website, and they also link to many other websites, and they usually have some sort of an official title, if you were. So a critic commenter would be obviously a columnist, maybe another activist, someone who is able to put out content, often affiliated, often with a newspaper or other group, and sometimes, of course, that they're just simply an informed person, and they're using this as as just to get their ideas out there. And again, demographics are about the same, about 35, 55. Income a little bit skewing a little bit less probably than the creators, and they might say, oh, this is what I think needs to be done. So again, Facebook, Twitter, that same sort of thing. And spectators tend to be browse often don't sort of like take part. They're private sort of people. They're typically, maybe someone has a job and they just like keep an interest. And again, the same sort of thing. The typical income in America, around about 40,000. So and the same sort of stuff. So and the last sort of thing is conclusions. Okay, so websites not quite so important. The Facebook and the Twitter is very important. A lot of these people are, the most active people don't necessarily have to be politically or professionally qualified for that. Oftentimes it's like they have an interest, they have their profession might not necessarily be something which qualifies them to expound, but they do expound, and oftentimes these people have a very good background in it non-professionally and therefore have a lot to say. They're able to swing opinion by posting in Facebook a lot. The more you post, obviously, the more you actually influence people, and the reposts which are taken up are always the best thing. So however, having said all that, original content often hard to find, and reposts from say newspaper articles are much more tend to be out there much more. And again, but the range of subjects changes. Like every couple of days, it's a completely different range of subjects, except for a few stories which have absolute legs. Okay, thanks a lot. Have a great night. Bye.